At this point, we've covered a lot of lost and obscure GTA mods over here on this channel, but one type of genre of mod that I've seen lost to the ether in some capacity are horror-themed mods. And no, I'm not talking about zombie mods like Zombie Andreas, I'm talking survival horror, like creepy atmosphere, psychological tension, jump scares and all. And of course, one of the oldest and most popular mods for GTA overall is in fact labeled as a horror mod with Long Night, which we've covered back here on the channel before. But over the years, I remember seeing some projects that would get started for the GTA series that were either getting cancelled or eventually left to the ether due to servers eventually shutting down. But today, I've curated a few different interesting horror-themed mods that were either forgotten to time, that were released over the years for the older GTA games, with some lost and obscure horror mods for GTA. Starting off with a mod for good old Vice City created by the mod author who goes by Dark Hunter. Throughout the early 2000s, Dark Hunter was a mod author who would make a ton of different mods for Vice City, from simple trainers to radio mods, map mods, to an entire Resident Evil themed total conversion for Vice City called UCBS Umbrella that went through a couple iterations and hell, even a few other zombie mods. But Dark Hunter eventually took a crack at making their own original survival horror mod for Vice City with the mod titled Dead Island 2.0. I know, very original name, but I'm pretty sure this came out before the Dead Island that you know. This mod was thought to be lost for a while since Dark Hunter had to take down a ton of their downloads from their website at some point, most likely due to copyright issues. But thankfully, the mod started resurfacing in different spots over the past couple years, meaning we can finally play a very early take at a lost survival horror mod for GTA Vice City. Dead Island 2.0 takes place on a remote island that was once used by the government at some point to develop bioweapons. But well, I mean, we all know how that turns out. We play as Jack Hunter, a special agent sent via helicopter onto the island to recover any information that he can, since some of the biochemical systems started coming back online after the island lost communication with the military months prior. And after you're dropped off, you're kind of just left to your own devices to figure out what to do. But you can hear this phone ringing constantly off in the background, so we obviously gotta find a payphone somewhere around here. And eventually we find one next to this weird mural set up next to a grave inside of a garage. Upon answering the phone, some unknown person on the other line lets us know that we need to locate a survivor on the island before our rescue chopper comes back in about 30 minutes. So we need to look for supplies and some codes, and they pretty much tell us good luck and hang up. And right next to the mural, there's this map that lets us know where to get started looking for some clues. So we start heading out on our search, but at this point, I need a weapon. And thankfully, I locate my first one over here in this garage at the house next door. So we head inside to grab an... Whoa, 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 whoa! These bullet sponge zombies just spawn out of nowhere. You gotta blast every single one of them to get the hell out of the garage. But now that we have a weapon, which has a ton of reserves, we're ready to start looking for any notes to figure out what the hell went on here, all while dodging these random ghost zombie things. And I mean that because they appear out of the blue and sometimes disappear in the middle of a fight. And since the mod works on a limited timer, you'll have to work fast on all of the notes on the island, which in turn help you locate key cards, to access what would have been Diaz's mansion, since, you know, this is supposed to be Starfish Island, but it's now this daunting hospital that overlooks the rest of the island. And once inside, and after looking around for even more clues, we'll have to fight even more of these bullet sponge zombos. But after finding another note inside of this hospital, and seeing that most of the doors are still locked down, we need to go back outside and find the rest of the keys to open up the rest of these locked doors, until we find that survivor that we were looking for down in the basement. But right as we're heading outside, the doctor who ran this place, of course, turned himself into one of these things. And all of his zombie goons have guns, so it turns into this final shootout in the main hall of the hospital. But the dude ended up just bugging out on me, so I couldn't finish the mod, unfortunately. However, you can tell that Dark Hunter really tried to do what they could with the limitations of modding Vice City at the time. And this was honestly a solid attempt at creating a survival horror experience, at least for back in the day. Of course, it does wear off its vanity after a while, like with the enemies spawning and disappearing like I mentioned, or with some zombie types just using guns. I've never understood that trope in these early mods, but yeah, there's that. And the mod not really giving you any sort of direction at all. Like, yeah, there is that map that I mentioned, but the locations on there really don't point you to where you need to go in the first place. Thankfully, there is still an old guide on Dark Hunter's website, and I used that in combination with taking a screenshot of the map itself and dotting off these locations as I visited them, which kind of reminded me of playing the old Resident Evils back in the day and writing down some of the puzzle solutions in a notebook. But while you're out looking for these clues, there's really no enemies at all that spawn. Every once in a while, there will be those disappearing enemies that show up or near key items, but that's really it. So you're just kind of like running around or hopping around like I did most of the time when finding these items. But despite the jank and weird design, this mod takes a little over 30 minutes to complete and has you diving deeper into figuring out what conspiracy took place on the island. Which, despite that sounding like it could be some random Resident Evil side plot, it definitely wears that inspiration on its sleeve. And it makes sense considering Dark Hunter's previous projects. But at some point, Dark Hunter did take down their mods over on their blog page, and they haven't really updated any of their page with download links ever since. I won't leave a link for the mod down in the description, since the mod author themselves on their website have asked for people not to share it. But I'll leave a link down in the description below for a video that should point you in the right direction of the mod itself. Sorry to make it hard to find still, but I just wanted to share my opinion on the mod, not the files themselves, to grant the modders' wishes. Now, if that first mod was inspired by Resident Evil, then this next one has gotta be inspired by Silent Hill in some capacity. Made by the mod team Giraffe 3D Studio and Ditch Production, a collaborative effort between a ton of different GTA modders. Together, they built up a mod for San Andreas that goes for more of a psychological horror vibe than any of the other mods on this list, despite its short runtime. The mod itself is called You Are Here, and has us playing as a nurse, or what we assume is a nurse by their getup, who wakes up near a phone booth just outside of what looks to be an abandoned hospital. But mind you, I played a repacked version of this mod by Junior, since the old version of ModDB had a pretty blatant virus warning, and even then if you did acquire the original files, you need to use a map cleaner app to get it set up. So I just said fuck it and used Junior's, which not only fixes a few things throughout the mod, but the main change here is that it makes our character Katie from San Andreas, which is fine in my opinion. She was a nurse after all. And that's why if you've ever played this mod before and wondered why it's a different protagonist, that's why. But after Katie wakes up outside of the hospital, she immediately notes that she has to find anyone else who's alive and find out what this place represents. Wow, very Silent Hill coded with that line there. But anyways, after a very brief stride around the corner, we discover an abandoned hospital that's all locked up. So we head over to this side door that leads down into a basement, and
wow, look at all that blood.
Yeah. So naturally, we head over to pick up the gun next to the hanging body and find there's a note on that body that tells us a little bit more about what happened here. And it seems like they locked up the hospital to try to keep something locked in there. So again, naturally, we head into the hospital. From here, we find notes around the place that let us know a little bit more about the horrible shit that went down here, which looks to be that they were testing these frequencies and their capacity on the human brain, which of course eventually started turning people into something else completely. And as we creep throughout the rest of the hospital, we might not be alone here. As we get further up into the building, the floor eventually falls out from under us and lands us right next to the side exit door of the building. Hey, cool, we can leave. Oh, never mind, it leads to an alleyway, which leads to our very first encounter with these horrific experiments that were buried here. And damn, these zombie mutant things actually look pretty sick. Turns out they were fully original models made for these experiments, which is a nice touch. But the whole encounter with like falling through the floor and then leading into our first combat encounter, I'm not gonna lie, that really reminded me a hell of a lot of the Nightmare House mod for Half-Life 2. And at that point, I started spotting so many different Half-Life 2 assets and textures all throughout the mod. But honestly, I think it really worked out for the atmosphere, because it made the hospital and the other areas that we enter seem really drab and abandoned, and fit the entire vibe of the mod really well. But after we go through some jump scares throughout the hospital and learn how these experiments went down here, we eventually find the exit to this place and start heading— fuck. Well, the floor falls out on us again, but down here we find the head doctor's escape room that's away from the rest of the hospital. But it looks like the doc didn't make it. And there's a note here that tells us about how one of their test subjects named the Hive, who ended up having a giant brain, emitted those frequencies that they used and started controlling everything, turning all of the other subjects against the entire staff. And they left a kill switch that tunes all of the speakers in the area to a frequency that should wipe out pretty much everything within the area. But before we can do anything, Katie's hit with a flashback that shows exactly how she ended up outside of the hospital. She remembers running outside as she was about to be turned into one of those experiments. But before she was able to escape and call for help on the payphone, it seems like the Hive started taking control of the entire hospital, meaning Katie barely escaped the Hive's control. So at this point, all we have left to do is hit the switch behind the painting to get rid of the Hive once and for all. So we hit the button and try to get the hell out of Dodge, but every single exit down here is blocked off, making our character heel over and die before the credits roll. And, well, yeah, while the ending is anticlimactic as hell, and the writing for the mod is just very on the nose and predictable, I honestly think this is a pretty good attempt at pulling off a Silent Hill style game within the San Andreas engine, even if it was way too short. Like, you can finish this in probably 20 minutes. But the devs did post on the mod's ModDB page that there would be a sequel to the mod, about 16 years ago. So, yeah, I don't think we're ever getting a sequel to this one. Unless the devs see this and it sparks some wild hair in their ass to jump back on the project, yeah, I don't see this mod ever coming back anytime soon. Which is a shame, honestly, as this was probably the best attempt on this list at making a somewhat original psychological thriller within one of the GTA engines. And they pulled off a decent job with this one. And by the end of it, I just wanted to keep playing and see more of this style of mod. So if you wanted to check this one out for yourself, I'll leave a link for Junior's repost of the mod down in the description, as they also have a link for the original files if you wanted to load that one up, but it just takes a little bit of tinkering to get everything up and running. But don't blame me if you end up getting a virus. This next mod was made by Black Stallion, the same developer who made the Outlander of Wasteland mod we covered back in the first Lost and Obscure GTA mods video. And this mod, much like their other projects, is an unfinished yet intriguing look at how far GTA Total Conversions really can go, with almost all of Black Stallion's projects looking like entirely different games. But this next mod I'm going to show, called Fog of the Dead, was first shown off on GTA forums back in 2019. And after a few updates, the mod was eventually pulled from the forum due to some issues with the last version they put out there, which had quite a few bugs within the mod. And overall, this project just didn't get a whole lot of attention. And as of the recording of this video, the mod is still unfinished. But thankfully, you can still pull a copy of the mod from its page over on ModDB. But due to some of the scripts that are packaged with this game, it takes a bit of tinkering to get set up. Mainly just by going into the settings menu and changing the resolution to something else and then switching back to your preferred resolution, it should get you back up and running. Or else everything's going to be flipped upside down and you're going to be seeing some horrible faces. But loading up a new game, we're hit with this broadcast telling us,
police have confirmed atomic food products have caused widespread mutations. Government project executioners has been sent to control the situation.
And then it launches into our very first cutscene, setting up our characters. Which, of course, this mod uses very early AI voices.
Not yet, Kenny. But I think we get to this camp soon.
Why are we stopping here? Something is happening.
Fucking car is broken again. But how are you?
Essentially, we're a couple driving through a zombie-filled city and their car's broken down in the middle of it. Our girlfriend wakes up and is asking what's going on, and we tell her that we need to go out and look for supplies. But during this, we learn that Jenny is sick, and so when we venture out into the city, we not only have to find supplies for the car, but find some medicine for Jenny as well. And so we get out of the car and head into town. But right off the bat, this mod almost feels like a completely new game, with us running through these zombie-filled streets and having us scavenge for these supplies, avoid the undead, and hell, even other scavengers out in the city, and barely having any ammo. You really need to make sure that you're saving on ammunition around every corner. And unfortunately, the bat, even though it's like a spiked bat in this mod, doesn't really do shit against the infected, so you have to rely on getting headshots. And look, I know, I kind of hinted at the prospect of not covering any zombie mods in this list, but I personally think this one shakes up things a bit and feels completely different from the rest of them, in a sense that this is a way more linear experience. Plus, I'm pretty sure that this mod uses a lot of assets from Manhunt, and hell, even some more from Half-Life 2, but it uses Carcer City as our stomping grounds to run through, making this feel like some apocalypse scenario in the Rockstar shared universe. And the mod actually handles zombies fairly well as compared to most other zombie mods out there, like Long Night, where in here they're slow enough to avoid, can be taken out by a single headshot, but if you end up getting grouped up by them, they'll be a pain in the ass if you're surrounded. But other than zombies, you'll need to avoid other scavengers who might be blocking your path from gathering whatever you need to fix up your car. And on the second level of this mod, there'll be executioners, which are these hazard suit wearing dickheads who could take you out pretty easily if they catch you off guard. But pretty much any gun wielding enemy can be a pain in the ass in this mod to take care of. And if you find them in a group, yeah, good luck, go find some ammo and then come back. But the worst enemy of this mod that you have to deal with is the mod's camera system, because oh my god, it's horrible. And the lightning in this mod, holy shit. Editing this video is gonna give me a fucking stroke. But back to what we were saying, the horrible camera. While it goes for more of an over-the-shoulder approach with the GTA 5 style camera, the script it uses for that will almost make your camera itself like a physical object, making it get stuck on obstacles as you pass by them. And it'll sometimes switch the direction that you're facing. Like, look at this right here. I'm just holding down W in this clip right here. Fucking ridiculous. But thankfully, if you happen to die, you don't have to go back and complete every single objective at that point. The mod does this cool thing where it actually saves whatever objectives you've completed so far from your last run once you respawn, which is a nice way of saving your progress in a mod like this, and I found it to be greatly appreciated. However, the actual save function of the mod didn't work for me, because every single time I would save in the death screen, yeah, the game would just crash. But if you do end up finding all the supplies, a cutscene plays where we end up back at the car, and some bandits have taken our girl and our car hostage, with the leader of the bandits being voiced by AI Trump.
Just look what we got here. You must be in Jack, right? Just drop your fucking gun down, if you want to see her alive. Good boy. Now listen closely. We all get to your car and drive into some place. You understand what I say? Hurry up, chump.
This is somehow surprisingly fitting. And this dickhead pretty much has us find supplies for them in the rest of the city while they look over the car and our girl. And at this point on the second level, I kept getting killed repeatedly by the executioners since they'd spawn really close by every time and take me out. And the fact that I couldn't save means I'd have to pretty much replay the entire thing to progress forward when filming this. So yeah, if you want to see what ends up happening, I'd highly recommend downloading it for yourself and checking it out. Other than that though, I think this is another great look at what a horror mod could be like in the San Andreas engine. And Black Stallion was able to pull off something that makes it feel like a completely new game entirely. From what I could gather, Black Stallion has since moved on to other projects, like with an update coming out for Outlander of Wasteland within the next year or so. And they're also working on another project, which is a whole new open world crime game in the San Andreas engine called Miami Connection. It seems like it's pretty far into development, so we'll see how those mods go whenever they finally get released. But definitely keep an eye out on those. And go check out Fog of the Dead if you're interested on a different take on a zombie survival horror experience in the GTA engine. I'll leave a link down in the description if you're interested in checking it out. Now, I know this is a bit of a shorter list compared to my other Lost and Obscure videos, but when it comes to survival horror mods, there's really not a whole lot that's out there in the GTA sphere. Most horror-themed mods that you'll come across for GTA turn out to be some rendition of myth hunting mods, like with Mysterix or Minin Gang, which I'm actually playing through the second one as of the recording of this video, since it was recently updated. But these myth hunting mods kind of give their own spin on finding the mini-myths or creatures that a ton of theory videos have talked about for the past couple decades. Or there's your typical zombie mod that's pretty much been overdone in the GTA modding scene at this point, where they all just feel like long night fan games. I mean, there is Left for Theft, which I did mention in the Zombie Andreas video, and I checked out during the recording of this video, and it was honestly pretty cool checking that one out because it almost felt like a precursor to what Zombie Andreas would eventually turn out to be. But hell, if you're looking to play a zombie mod, I still think your best bet out of the bunch is still going to be Long Night and Zombie Andreas. But the three mods that we've shown here today were able to pull off a survival horror mod in these old GTA engines fairly well, and it shows that it is possible. Hopefully by this time next year, we can see something frighteningly good to make the most out of the survival horror theme next Halloween. But what do you think? Have you checked out any of these mods yourself? And if there were any horror mods that I missed in the GTA modding community, especially for this video, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to check them out in the future. And make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're interested in this type of content, as we'll be covering mods and user-generated content all the time on this channel. Also, make sure to follow my socials and join up in the Blado Potato community in the Discord link below. That is all from me today, and I hope you've all had a fantastic day. Stay safe out there. Blado out.